You won't believe this. Once I clicked on go live,
Okay, good. I guess good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I hope I can be heard clearly, and I hope we have all our presenters on the call. We should be starting shortly, so I just want to confirm if Vice President, please, are you with us? Okay. Okay. All right. So I'd like to say welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining this session hosted by CES. Um, we know it's going to be a very interesting session. We're going to learn a lot from here. We have a lot of insightful things to share, a lot of things for us to know. Okay, the vice chairperson is here. Sorry, Kwabena, I can't hear you. I don't know if anyone else can hear you, but I can't hear you.
You
I
hear
hope
me?
you can all hear me. So we'll be starting. Okay, I can see you. Great, nice,
But can you hear
nice.
me?
I can hear you now. Yes,
Oh, okay, great.
yeah, nice tie. Good to have you. Okay, so we will be starting shortly, but before then, I would like the welcome address from the regional chairman of the PSGH Greater Accra. So Pharm Kwabena, please, if you're on the call, would like to just have the welcome address from you, then we'll proceed.
Hello, host.
Yes, Pharm Kwabena.
Okay, wonderful. Now my camera is there, so good evening, colleagues, and on behalf of the executives of the of PSGH, welcome all of you to this evening's meeting, which also happens to be a CPD program that we've decided to organize for our constituents. I know that this one is only for Greater Accra. I know a lot of people from other regions have joined because of how important and relevant this evening's topics are to all of us as pharmacists. As a region, this also happens to be, I must say that when we were elected, it's our first meeting as newly elected executives, and also happens to be the last meeting for the year 2023. So I would like to thank you for renew our mandate as executives of the Greater Accra branch of PSGH for the next 2 years. We are confident that you are going to give us your maximum support to enable us to serve you to the best of our abilities. Medical legal issues are on the ascendancy, and most of them come about when we as professionals refuse to abide by the ethics and the laws regulating our practice. This is what has informed the topic for this evening. Engagement. We are also privileged to have FDA partner us to also give us some insights into what they come across in the pharmacies during their post-market surveillance activities, which can lead us into trouble. And I would like to thank at this moment the CEO of FDA, Dr. Mrs. Delis Darkon, for really accepting to do this for us and with us. The CPD topics are going to be delivered by two of our own pharmacists, Kwabena Asante Esquire, who happens to be the Vice President of PSGH, and pharmacist Virgil Pra Ashon of FDA. Incidentally, he happens to be my mate. We wrote our professional exams in the same year. The President of the PSGH is also around, and we are going to hear from him briefly. Thank you, Mr. President, for representing. The executives of the region have lined up a series of activities for the year, so we entreat all of us to massively participate in them, as you have done today. Today, the information we had was that around 1,500 pharmacists registered to partake in this evening's program. and I must say that, you know, the politician always say it's unprecedented for a regional meeting to commandeer that number of people. We have a few activities that we've aligned for the year, which we want to bring your attention shortly. So for the first quarter, we are going to have one of the WHO Health Awareness Days to celebrate it massively. Now we are having a very good collaboration with all our stakeholders, CPPA, GOSPA, ASREPA, IPA, PRASMA, then our interest groups, early career pharmacists group, and then we also have LAPAC. We will also organize a second edition of the RS Games, which was a hit last year during the second quarter. There will be a massive celebration of World Pharmacist Day in 2024. Nowadays, it has always been on a low key because it's almost always comes just after AGM. And when it happens, all our people might have been fatigued. But this year, you want to plan it well. You want to plan it very well. And you want to plan it very well and have a massive participation. One of the programs that you want to highlight on is that this is a Greater Accra, aside all our other activities, you want to embark on a mental health awareness and education campaign in all the SHSs within the region, starting with the grade A schools. As a result of this, we call on all pharmacists who are alumni of the schools in the Greater Accra region to start preparing to lead this campaign in their respective schools or various schools. I would like to acknowledge the contribution of Pharmanova, who partly sponsored this meeting. I would like to wish you all an enjoyable evening. I also want to wish you a Merry Christmas in advance and a prosperous 2024. On that note, I ask you to enjoy the evening and I'll come back. Thank you very much, Mr. Host.
Thank you very much, Pharm Kwabena. Thank you for sharing with us the activities for the Greater Accra PSGH arm. So now, if the President of PSGH is available, would like to take an address from him, if he is available. Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm guessing he's not able to join at the moment. So hopefully during the session he'll be able to join us. So if Famimi Donko is around from the FDA, would really like to hear from you. So any message from FDA CEO Famimi Dako, you have the floor, please. Because we have the FDA CEO on the call, please. Okay, great. Great. Okay. So Famindako, we could see you a few seconds ago. So if your camera could come back on and then we could hear from you.
My camera is on.
Okay.
Is it gone off?
I can't see from my end. Okay, it's back on now. Great, yes. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll just take a message from you before we start this particular session. With I'm told we have over 1,000 pharmacists on the call, so we'd like to hear from you. Thank you.
Okay, so good evening, and thank you for having us on the call. I'm sorry, I just came back from a meeting in Parliament, so I'm a bit flustered. I see that the title of this, the objectives are to gain insights into the professional ethics. And you know that what we do at the FDA is to, first of all, in our broad objectives of our mandates is ensure public health and safety. And we do so by ensuring that products that are imported into the country are of the right quality, that in doing so, we ensure that they are, first of all, they are registered. Once they are registered, then they can be imported. And then once they're imported, they then have to be, the quality and the safety have to be monitored. And we rely very much on us pharmacists to ensure that this is done. Now, we do this through the legal provisions is Act 851 and the very many sections of Act 851, Section 118 that deals with registration. We have sections that deal with manufacture. We have sections that deal with with importation. Sections that deal with sale and advertisement of products. And to ensure quality, safety, and efficacy, all those sections of the law for which we have guidelines are in place to ensure that quality, safety, and efficacy are met. We have a section that also deals with the monitoring of the safety of products, which is Section 125. And this section says that every product that is put on the market, there should be a qualified person to ensure that the safety of the product is monitored, and we will ensure that this is done properly. So ethically, it is the responsibility of the pharmacist, once it is a medicine or a medical product. So it could be a medicine, it could be an allopathic medicine, it could be a vaccine, to ensure that the sections or the provisions of the law and the guidelines that the law allows us to develop under the section of the law that allows us to develop guidelines are met. We entreat pharmacists because in the past we were privileged to have a meeting with Pharm Charles and the president as well, Dr. Donko. We have noticed that in recent times, unfortunately, most of I don't say most, unfortunately, some of the practices that we are finding, it is very painful that we find out that some of the contraventions that we are finding are being done by ourselves. And it is very painful when we have to go out and issue publications against our own selves. So we thought this would be a right platform for us to be able to come and talk about the way, as a professional group, we will be able to self-regulate to ensure that we ourselves are not the culprits of trying to do what we are supposed to protect the health and safety of our patients against. So if we bring products onto the market, or if we manufacture products and put them onto the market, we should not be the people who will ourselves make a good medicine go bad. So I think this is the right forum for us to ensure that this is done. At the end of the day, we are the ones who know everything. I always pride myself in saying that the pharmacist is the A1. That's what we learned when we finished pharmacy school. We know everything and more about medicines than any other profession will. will ever know. So we should be always the last people to make a good medicine go bad or put a bad medicine on the market. So thank you very much for joining in this program. I will be online for as long as it is possible. And if there are any questions, I have my colleague, Mr. Vigil Prashan, will come and do a presentation on some of, I believe, some of the findings that we've had and how we can work together to ensure that, in accordance with why we are pharmacists and why we are the custodians of medicines and good medicines, and ensure that medicines that are good stay good, and what we can do to ensure that this remains so. I will be on to ensure that we work together to achieve the objectives of this event. So once again, thank you for having the Food and Drugs Authority on this program. Thank you, Pharm Donko. Thank you again, and I wish us all a successful program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pharm Midako from the FDA. It's really good to have you and your team on the call, and thank you for gracing us with your opening remarks. I think now we have the president of PSGH on, so Pharm Dr. Samuel Donko, please, I would like to take your opening remarks before we go into the main aspects of this meeting. Thank you. Donko, please, are you on the call now? Okay, I think maybe he's having some challenges. So, like, like the CEO of FDA mentioned, it's good to have this good mix of us professionals on the call, as well as the representatives for FDA, because they more or less work and register, certify, ensure the safety of our medicinal products. But it's also good for us to know as professionals what we are supposed to do, what we shouldn't do, and what the sanctions are based on what we end up doing as we practice. So we would like to welcome, since we don't have the president on the call now, to welcome our first presenter, which is the Vice President of the PSGH, Pharm Kwabena Asante Offei Esquire, who's going to take us through what our do's, don'ts, and sanctions are when it comes to our professional practice as pharmacists in Ghana. So, Pharm Offei, please, if you're on, would like to see the video on. And yes, great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me? Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear. We can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, colleagues, and thank you very much for having me with Accra. So this series of presentations have come about as a result of the fact that as PSGH, we think that we should make sure that our members have an understanding of what is expected of them at any point in time, so that if in the unlikely case that we have to bring somebody before the disciplinary committee to investigate or listen to a particular matter, there wouldn't be an excuse that the person did not know that this was not expected of him or her. Or to put it in a positive way, we do not want situations where we would have to bring our own colleagues before the disciplinary committee. And so we are proactively going on this journey to bring this awareness to as many pharmacists as possible, so that we know what's expected of us at any point in time, and hopefully that we do the right thing at all times. I understand the president is on now. I don't know whether we can pause for him to give his remarks before we continue.
Dr. Donko, please, if you are on, you can kindly unmute so that we can have your opening remarks, please. Right.
Am I on?
Yes, please.
Hello.
Yes, please. We can see and hear you,
Hello,
sir.
yeah,
So please
okay.
go ahead. Thank you.
Anyway, thank you. I was actually expecting Kwabena to continue with his speech before I come in, but
Okay, apologies. I think we're having some internet connectivity challenges with the president. So please bear with us. Okay, he's back on now. Dr. Donko, we lost you for a few seconds, so please you can.
Can I please plead with you to continue? I'm actually out of town. I'm in Tamale. I'm having few challenges where I am. So if you can continue.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can go on, yeah, please kindly plead with you to go on. I'll join you later. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. President. So, Vice President, please, if you can go on with your presentation. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me? Is it clear?
Yes, please. It's loud and clear. Yes, please.
Okay. So, as I gave the background, we are going to do this not just for the Greater Accra team, but we'll do it in every region, any of the PSGH regions in the course of the year, so that we are all aware of what is expected of us, and hopefully we comply with them. So that is what is going to be that is the reason for this presentation. And in my presentation, if we can start sharing it. In my presentation, I'm going to just draw our attention. Well, first of all, we have a lot of pharmacists now who may not be aware of the PSGH disciplinary processes and then ethics and how the PSGH deals with misconduct in the system. So I'm going to take some time to just educate us on all those processes, bring our attention to some ethics of the profession, and then hopefully we can have some Q&A after that. So that's how this is going to progress. So please note your questions. We'll have them at the end of the session. Right. So all right. Okay. So I want to start from the beginning with the vision and mission of the PSGH. So for those of you who have seen the PSGH Constitution before, I have my copy here, the PSGH Constitution. Everybody is expected to have a copy of the PSGH Constitution. As from January, a copy of it will be available on the PSGH website as well, so that everybody can look at it. But if you look at the vision of the PSGH, it says that we strive for the well-being of all through the provision of excellent pharmaceutical services at all times. Excellent pharmaceutical services. So there's excellent pharmaceutical services embedded in our vision. So let's take note of that. If we look at our mission as well, it says that to be able to achieve this vision, we provide accessible, affordable, sustainable, and quality pharmaceutical services to all through professionalism, continuous professional development, welfare, leadership, collaboration with other stakeholders, and so forth. But the word I want to emphasize there is through professionalism. So through our vision and then our mission, professionalism, and then excellence are key to us, and they are the bedrock on which we provide all our services. So let us note that professionalism and the right way of doing things, excellence, is right from the beginning of what we do as a professional body. Now, to be able to safeguard or ensure that the professionalism we've talked about and the excellent pharmaceutical services we've talked about in our vision and mission is not compromised, let me put it that way. The PSGH Constitution itself sets up a disciplinary committee Now, the committee is a 5-member committee, and it is established under Article 7(2)(a) of the PSGH Constitution. The committee is chaired by the Vice President of PSGH. We have one member who is elected by the governing board of the PSGH, one member who is not a member of the governing board, a legal practitioner, and then the executive secretary is the secretary to the disciplinary committee. So this is the composition of the disciplinary committee of the PSGH. The second thing is about the mandate of the PSGH. So Article 7(2)(b) then talks about the fact that there shall be referred to the disciplinary committee by the governing board such matters involving breach of any one provision relating to discipline under Article 10 of the Constitution. Discipline under Article 10 of the Constitution. So I'll come to Article 10 shortly. Any other matter likely to bring the image of the profession of pharmacy into disrepute, and that includes misconduct. Please note that this is not just professional misconduct. The Constitution says misconduct. So if, for example, if you, beat your husband at home, is that misconduct, for example? Or you beat your wife at home, is that misconduct, for example? It may not be professional misconduct, but it constitutes misconduct. And then the second thing is about abuse of office. Now, abuse of office here refers to, for example, the PSGH president, if he is unable to join this call, for example, because of internet issues, does that constitute abuse of office? Or the vice president, or the treasurer, or any of the officers that we have in the society? If they abuse their office, then that abuse comes within the scope of the disciplinary committee, and you can be brought before the committee for disciplinary actions to be taken against you. In fact, and I'll be happy to hear your thoughts about this, some people are of the view that this abuse of office, as indicated in the Constitution, should be stretched to include pharmacists in other offices which are not PSGH offices who misconduct themselves. So if, for example, with all due respect to the CEO of the FDA who just spoke, if Madame Mimida Akon misconducted herself in the office of CEO of FDA, should that constitute abuse of office under this provision? Should the PSGH disciplinary committee have jurisdiction to bring her before us and then take disciplinary actions against her? I'd like to hear your thoughts about that as we go on. But for now, abuse of office relates to abuse of office in a PSGH office. So these are the situations in which a matter can be brought before the PSGH disciplinary committee. One, a matter relating to discipline under Article 10. I'll show you that shortly. A matter likely to bring the image of the profession of pharmacy into disrepute, and that is a broad mandate. Anything at all, including misconduct and abuse of office. Now we refer to Article 10. So this is what Article 10 says. Article 10 says that there shall be a code of ethics for the society. So Article 10 of the Constitution is what then introduces and brings legitimacy to the PSGH Code of Ethics. And then it says that the Code of Ethics shall govern the conduct of members of PSGH. So that means every member of PSGH, every pharmacist anywhere who is a member of PSGH. The Code of Ethics shall be binding on all members of the society. So not only are we supposed to be guided by the Code of Ethics, but we all, after accepting to be members of PSGH, inherently agree to be bound by the ethics of the society. So you cannot pick and choose. You cannot say, I'm a member of PSGH, but I'm not bound by the ethics of the PSGH, because our Constitution, which establishes the ethics, says that we are all bound by it. Now, the next provision, which is still Article 10(2), is what then also introduces the sanctions that can apply when a person breaches any of the code of conduct of the codes of ethics of the society. It says that any member who is found guilty of professional misconduct. So here it is clear in the first provision, it said misconduct. It didn't say, so it's not qualified. Now, if you are found guilty of professional misconduct, and now professional misconduct relates to the one above. So if you are found to have breached the provisions of the Code of Ethics of the society, that constitutes professional misconduct. then you are liable to have your membership of the society suspended or terminated. Now, what does it mean for your membership of PSGH to be suspended or terminated? What it means is that could form a basis for your membership to also be terminated or suspended by the Pharmacy Council, and therefore your inability to practice as a pharmacist during the period of the suspension, or if it's terminated for the rest of your career. So if you are found guilty of professional misconduct, the consequences are huge, either that your membership is suspended or it is terminated. So I wanted us to also be aware of that. So we've talked about the disciplinary committee, we've talked about the mandate of the disciplinary committee, we've talked about now the ethics of the society, which has been introduced, and the sanctions that come if we breach the ethics. So I'll now want to take the time to go through what are ethics, some of the ethics that we have. Now, if you look at the PSGH constitution, the last part, the ethics, the code of ethics is printed as part of the PSGH constitution. So if you have one, or you request for one and you look at it, the code of ethics will be at the back of it. The introduction to the code of ethics says that in order to protect and maintain the trust and well-being of the public, pharmacists are required to observe these codes of, the code of ethics throughout their career, to ensure high standards and personal or professional conduct. So the code of ethics, observing the code of ethics is important to us as a profession to engender trust in the public. Because if we conduct ourselves in accordance with what the ethics say, then the public will have confidence in us. And when they come to us for any form of pharmaceutical service or care, they trust that what we give them is not going to harm them, but it's going to make them better. So that is very, very important. It is the trust, or these things are what creates the trust that ensures that the public is well. So it's we take it very, very, very seriously as a PSGH. And for all of us, we have to also take it very, very seriously. Now, I'll take you through some key provisions. We have 28 ethical provisions, 28, if you can see. But I'm not going to take you through all the 28. I'm going to take you through a few of them. But I also want to encourage all of us to take time and then go through them one by one. It won't take much time, but then it also helps you to be aware of how to act in various circumstances. So I'll start with Article 1, which is one of my favorite articles. It says that the pharmacist at all times, as a first priority, recognize the rights, health, and well-being of the client. So what does this mean? Now, for most institutions, if you go to Kolebu or any of the various institutions that we have, even the Ghana Health Service itself, there's what we call the patient charter, which has the rights of the patients and then the responsibilities of the patients. Now, those rights are important for our work. So, for example, just to highlight a few, the patient has a right to basic healthcare without discrimination. So a person comes to your pharmacy or comes to the dispensary, or you have the opportunity to provide any kind of pharmaceutical service, you cannot withhold that service or do it badly or prevent yourself from performing at the height or the highest standard of pharmaceutical care that is required of you, only because the person is either of a gender that you don't like, is a man or is a woman, or is of a particular tribe that you do not like, or is of a particular class or is not of a particular class. No matter what the circumstances are, you cannot, everybody is entitled as a right in Ghana here, or any human being is entitled to the right to basic pharmaceutical care or health care without any form of discrimination. Now, another right also is that patients or clients who come to us have the right to privacy during the time of consultation. So, you have to make that available to them. They have the right to confidentiality. The information they share with you cannot be shared with the public. And that is one of the ethics that we have as a society. So if a patient brings a matter up that I came to you, shared some things with you, and the next day I saw it on the internet or some other neighbor of mine was talking about it, that can constitute a breach of our ethics. And if you are found guilty, you can be guilty of professional misconduct, and the appropriate sanctions can apply. So at all times, let us recognize that the ethics require us as a first priority to recognize the rights, the health, and well-being of the client. Now, recognizing the health also means that the actions that we take in the pharmacy on provision of pharmaceutical care must ensure that the person is not worse off, but then better off. That is recognizing the health of the person. So if you think that you cannot do that, then don't attempt to do it. Don't attempt to do it and refer the person to the person who can do it. And even the referral must be done in a way that ensures that the person overall is better off and not worse off. So that's Article 1. Respect the rights, respect the health and well-being of our clients. In fact, if we can always have this at the back of our minds, are these actions I have taken or these actions I am undertaking, will they advance the rights or respect the rights and advance the health and well-being of the client? Most of the time, if the answer is yes, you most likely would have complied with all the other ethical provisions in the Constitution. The other provision that I also want to talk about is Article 5, which is the omnibus legal provision. It's an ethical provision, but then this is the provision that also brings in or inculcates or brings into scope all the laws of the society. So it says that the pharmacist is a good citizen and upholds and defends the laws of the nation. He keeps himself informed on pharmacy and laws of medicine, and other relevant laws pertaining to sanitation, health, and safety. So the first point is that we uphold and defend the laws of the nation. We uphold the laws of the nation. We keep ourselves informed of pharmacy laws. So, for example, the Health Professions Regulatory Bodies Act is a law on pharmacy and a law on health. And so you cannot say that I am ignorant. I don't know what the law says. That will be a breach of our provisions. So if the law, for example, says that if you allow a pharmacy to operate, you, the pharmacist, you allow a pharmacy to operate or call a pharmacy to call itself a pharmacy or dispensary or chemist, and you know that that pharmacy or pharmacist, pharmacy or dispensary or chemist does not and will not have a pharmacist there to supervise the activities there, but yet it operates to the public. That is a breach of ethics because it's a breach of the Health Professions Regulatory Bodies Act. We have the FDA speaking right now. There are laws pertaining to classification of medicines. And we know that based on that classification, there are provisions that say that some medicines can be provided on prescription only, some can be provided over the counter, and so forth and so on. So you must be aware of which medicines are prescription only, which medicines are not. And that is provided to us by the FDA. And so you must know that to be able to then perform those your actions as a pharmacist, to know which ones are over the counter, which ones are not. And not knowing that cannot be an excuse under our law, because the ethical provision in 5 covers that. We know that, for example, you cannot advertise medicines. That advertisements of medicines have to be approved first by the FDA. If you are a pharmacist and you are involved in a situation where you are advertising medicines on radio, on TV, without the approval of the FDA, not only do you offend the FDA's provision, but by offending the laws of the FDA, you are also offending Article 5 of our Constitution. I mean, of our Code of Ethics. So this provision is the part of our ethics that brings in all the laws that we are supposed to comply with. So we have to know it. We have to know the FDA law, that's the Public Health Act. We have to know the Health Professions Regulatory Bodies Act. We have to know the Health Facilities Act as well. And every other, it talks about sanitation, health, and safety. All laws that pertain to healthcare, we must know it. Now, people would say that this limits us to health laws, but please remember that it says that the first part says that the pharmacist is a good citizen and upholds and defends the laws of the nation, the laws of the nation. So while it is important for us to prioritize the health laws that affect our practice, you could also be liable for breaching this provision if, for example, you committed murder. It's not a health law. Well, you can even argue that it is. Or you stole something. You stole a mattress. It's not a medicine, mattress somewhere. But that stealing is It's against the laws of our country, and therefore that brings you under this provision, and then we can take disciplinary action against you. So this provision opens up all the laws of our country, and we are required to comply with them. Now, the next part says that we cooperate with the enforcement authorities. You have to be good citizens. We shall not engage in any activity that will bring the profession into disrepute, and we shall expose, without fear or favor, illegal or unethical conduct in the profession. Now, we know that a lot of us feel, well, because of our culture as a people, if we find that a colleague of ours, whether we know the person or not, is doing something that we believe is a breach of the ethics, we don't want to be the one to bring the person out. But then this provision requires us to do that. It says that we shall expose, without fear or favor, illegal or unethical conduct in the profession. So my dear friends, colleagues, if at any point in time you find that somebody's conduct is unethical or illegal or will bring the image of the profession into disrepute, you are required under this provision, without fear or favor, to expose that person. And I would like to encourage us to do it, because the more we do that, the fewer offenses will happen, and we cannot have a profession that is extremely ethical and will engender trust in the public as well. So that is Article 5. Please ponder over it if you can, as much as possible. Article 9 and 10. So Article 9 says promotion of a medicine must be in accordance with the terms of its registration and must not be inconsistent with the particulars listed in its packaging insert. So this basically just says, as simple as it is, that if you are promoting any particular medicine, promoting it includes recommending it to someone, you must know exactly what it does. It doesn't support off-label use of medicine. So if, people have used a particular medicine in a certain way and it has produced a certain result, which is not listed on its package insert, we as pharmacists cannot promote that medicine for that purpose. So somebody comes and says, "Oh, I want to put on weight, and can you give me some medicine to put on weight?" And then we know that there's a side effect of a certain product that causes weight gain, and so we give the medicine for weight gain. That is not right. But as simple also as just not knowing what the medicine is for and thinking that it's for something and not knowing for a fact that it is for that. We have had a situation where the disciplinary committee has had to consider a matter in which a pharmacist promoted a particular medicine for a particular condition, and that medicine was not for that condition, and yet the pharmacist was promoting it to the public. So we had to deal with that. So please let us make sure that we know our staff, we know what is used for what, and when we are promoting in accordance with the particulars listed in the insert for that particular medicine. Article 10 also talks about the fact that you shall not allow others to use your name, qualification, address, or photograph in connection with the distribution of any medicinal product to the public. Now, I will stretch the meaning of this a little bit, but here on the face of it, what it just means is that you cannot allow somebody to say, "Oh, you have a particular medicinal product." Let's say for the purpose of discussion, a herbal product, and the person promotes it somewhere and says, you give permission for your name to be used. This medicine has been confirmed to be competent by Pharmacist Kwabena Asante Offei, who works at XYZ places. And because you are a pharmacist or a professional in medicines, your association with it then gives legitimacy to that particular claim, the claims of whatever product that is being promoted. You cannot do that. But I want to stretch it a little bit, that if, for example, you register a pharmacy or you superintend a pharmacy and then you are not there, or the pharmacy is in, let's say, Tamale. The president is there, so I'm using that. If the pharmacy is in Tamale, and then your whole life, your family, your work, everything is here in Accra, and your everyday life is here, but you've also superintended a pharmacy in Tamale, you don't know what goes on there. What you have done is that you have allowed your name and qualifications and address and photograph to be used in connection with the distribution of medicinal products to the public without your presence there. So whatever goes on there, you don't know. And I would like to stretch this provision to cover a situation like that. If anything happened in the pharmacy and then this matter came to our attention, I think that you will be guilty of this provision. So at any point in time, let us associate ourselves legally with things that are legal. And then when we do associate ourselves, let us be present to make sure that whatever is required of whatever we are associating ourselves with, all the requirements around it have been met. So that's Article 10. I wanted to bring it to your attention. Sorry, Article 20. Now, pharmacists shall avoid unacceptable descriptions which are either inaccurate or inimical to the relationship among pharmacists. Now, this I thought including this especially because of social media. If a pharmacist does something that you do not like, or you think it is, or you think actually you believe that it's illegal or unethical, you are required to report that to, in this case, the PSGH. However, it is unacceptable for you to, as a result of that, also make descriptions about that person that are unacceptable or false. Or let me put it in simple terms, insult the person, either publicly or mostly publicly. That is inappropriate. Even privately, it is inappropriate because it then becomes, that situation then causes a situation where the relationship among pharmacists is jeopardized. So let us be careful about the kind of descriptions we give to our colleagues, even if we are unhappy about what they are doing. The right channel is to report that matter to the PSGH. You can even address it if you want, but avoid a situation where you use unacceptable descriptions regarding the person. Now, the reason why it's important not to do this is that if you do this and you still go ahead to report the matter to the PSGH, and then we decide to hear the matter and the person brings this matter up, then it is possible that both you, the complainant, and the person who you are reporting could be guilty of the code of ethics of the society. And so please, 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 to ensure that we are building relevant relationships that can create a better atmosphere and culture among all of us, let us avoid these situations. And I just wanted to bring that in for us to come to our attention. Article 21 says that the pharmacist keeps himself informed regarding professional matters by reading current pharmaceutical, scientific, and medical literature, attending seminars, and by other means. Now, this is important because to be able to provide competent pharmaceutical care to our clients, we must be informed, or we must be current with respect to what the current trends are on any medication. It is possible that you would know that a particular medication is used or has a particular indication, but then unknown to you, a week before you decided to give it out, the FDA has issued some statements indicating that this medicine is no longer, this particular condition is no longer indicated for this medicine, and you may not know. So you must make deliberate effort to inform yourself regarding professional matters. Now, again, this is important because if, for example, you gave the medicine based on an indication that no longer exists, and then something happened and you were brought before the disciplinary committee, you cannot say that, well, but as of last week, we were using this medicine for this purpose. It doesn't matter because 3 days ago, we were no longer using it and you gave it just yesterday, so you will be liable for professional misconduct under this article. So we are required, all of us, to keep ourselves informed of professional matters. And that includes even this CPD that we are having. It's a professional matter. It's on ethics of the profession. You cannot, again, after this session, say that I did not know. So we have to be deliberate about informing ourselves regarding professional matters. We must attend seminars. We must read journals. The PSGH journal is an important journal. It has a lot of important things in it. I recommend it to you. You can use it in other medical literature as well. Article 25. A pharmacist assuming responsibility for any pharmacy function, whether as an employee, a locum advisor, or otherwise, is professionally accountable for all decisions to supply a medicine or provide care. So if you decide to superintend a pharmacy, you're a locum, you are an employee, whatever capacity you are in, within the time that your responsibility exists with the particular pharmacy, if any supply of medicine and goes on in the pharmacy, you are professionally accountable for it. It doesn't matter that you are not the one who personally served the medicine, but you are professionally accountable. So what that means is that if, for example, you are on a shift, and then your pharmacy support staff is not supposed to give out a particular medicine, but then does, and then something happens, that person will be personally liable, but then also you will also be professionally accountable. And so we can bring you either before the disciplinary committee of the PSGH or the Pharmacy Council disciplinary committee, and disciplinary proceedings will be held against you. If you're a superintendent pharmacist, anything goes wrong, you are professionally accountable. So your status or the kind of employment that you have or association that you have with the pharmacy does not indicate you or prevent you from being professionally accountable. So far as you have some sort of association with the pharmacy, and whatever occurred at the time when that association was in play, you are professionally accountable for all the decisions to supply a medicine or provide care. So let us be very, very mindful of that. When we are superintending a pharmacy for 1 year, anything that happens in that pharmacy for 1 year, whether you are there or not, you are professionally liable. If you're a local pharmacist from maybe 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. on a particular day, anything that happens there, you are also professionally liable for it. So let us be very mindful about this provision as well. Right, so those are some of the ethical provisions that we have that we are all required to comply with. For me, Article 5 and 1 are the most all-encompassing. This one is a dangerous provision. We are required to know the laws and comply with them. Whether they are in the ethics or they are not in the ethics, it doesn't matter. So far as the law of the country, we are supposed to know it and comply with it, especially our health laws. So now, the final thing I wanted to also share on this so that we can open it up later on is, what does it mean? We say we'll bring you before the disciplinary committee. What does that mean? So there is a whole disciplinary procedure that the governing board of the society has put in place that the disciplinary committee has to follow. So I want to just quickly take you through that and then also share some thoughts with you for your feedback if you have any. The first one is that for any matter to come before the disciplinary committee, there has to be a complaint. There has to be a complainant. Somebody has to bring the matter to the executive secretary. Now that raises, a few people have indicated that, can't the disciplinary committee just sit and say, this action that is going on by this person breaches our ethics, and therefore bring the person before the disciplinary committee? At the moment, the answer is no. And the reason is that the committee has to be as fair and impartial as possible in the process. So if the committee itself looks at a matter and decides that this thing has to be punished and brings you before it, what is the probability that, or what is the chance that the committee will be seen to be fair? I think that is the basis upon which the process commences, with a complaint by some other pharmacist who is not on the disciplinary committee to the executive secretary. So that's where it starts. The complaint must be formal, meaning that it has to be written. You can't send, it has to be formally written in a letter. It's not just, you can't send a WhatsApp message. You can't call him on the phone and say, I don't want to be, I want to remain anonymous. And this is what I've observed, and this is the situation. No, it has to be a formal complaint written with your name and identity in it. Send it to the executive secretary, who will then forward it to the governing board. Then the governing board will refer the matter to the disciplinary committee. So the governing board does not do anything. It does not look at it. It does not. Once the matter comes to them, they refer it to the disciplinary committee. And the disciplinary committee will make an initial preliminary assessment of the matter. So to determine whether the case even falls within the mandate of the disciplinary committee. So if we look at it, for example, I was talking initially about this. Okay, let me give you another example. If somebody made a complaint that there was a demonstration against the government, or let me give maybe more specific. Again, Mrs. Midako, forgive me, but there was a demonstration against the Food and Drugs Authority, and Mrs. Midako saw that I was in it holding a placard that the FDA is not a great organization, and she's not happy about it. She can write to the executive secretary to complain that my conduct in her view constitutes professional misconduct. It will come to the disciplinary committee. The disciplinary committee will look at it and make a determination. Does this fall within the scope of the mandate of the disciplinary committee, or is there a case to be answered even in this situation? If the committee comes to the conclusion that this is not a matter that is worth our attention, then the matter stops there. But then if it comes to the conclusion that this falls within the mandate of the disciplinary committee, then they will proceed from there to the next stage. So that first preliminary assessment by the committees is important to determine whether the matter will proceed or not. Now, if they think that the matter should proceed, then at that point, the person who has been complained about will then be informed of the complaint that Mr. X, this matter has come before the disciplinary committee. A complaint has come before the disciplinary committee about you in respect of ABCD matters. Here is a copy of the complaint. We'll be happy if you could respond to the matters that have been raised. And the person is given some time, 14 days, to respond. Then based on the response of that person, there is another assessment, because sometimes you can think that this complaint that has been made, oh, how can somebody do this? This is very bad and all. So you say that they should proceed, and then the respondent responds and says, oh, actually, I am not the one that did this. It was my twin sister, who is not a pharmacist, but I don't know, an engineer or a surveyor or something. But we look alike, so I'm sure that's why the person was mistaken. And then we say, oh, okay, that's the case. If that's the case, then the matter is out of our jurisdiction and we cannot proceed. Or genuine is the person, if the person gives a response that changes the nature of the complaint, and so we know that there's nothing to proceed with. We can stop the matter there. But if the response comes and we assess and we think that, no, this has to be proceeded with or investigated, then we move on to the next stage, which is called the disciplinary hearing. So it is not, it is a serious process, a serious matter before finally the PSGH comes out to say that you are guilty of a certain provision. It's no child's play. We are very diligent about all the things that we have to go through. So then comes the disciplinary hearing. At the disciplinary hearing, the complainant will come and then now make the case before the disciplinary committee. And the committee will take the opportunity to ask all the questions that they want to ask to satisfy themselves that what you are saying is actually the case and you have been able to prove your case. So normally what will be in the complaint will be something like, this person has done A, B, C, D, and in my view, it is a breach of articles X, Y, Z of the PSGH Code of Ethics. So they will come and give you the opportunity to tell us why you think it is so. Do you have anything to back it and all that? Once you make your case, you go away, and then we invite the respondent to also come in and then also respond to the allegations that have been made against him or her. And then we also ask questions to be able to satisfy ourselves that the responses of the respondents are actually substantial. They are meaningful. They can stand the test of time. Now, based on those two exchanges, we don't put the two of them together. We hear one, and then after that we hear another. So based on that, then the committee reviews all the responses, the communications that have gone back and forth, and then comes to a conclusion as to whether there has been a breach of any of the ethical provisions. Please note that you can come to the disciplinary committee with your lawyer or some other advocate if you so wish, but you have to inform us in advance before you come. And then based on what our conclusions are, we will make a recommendation to the governing board regarding the matter. Now, there are two recommendations that can be made, only two. Number one is that we can say that, yes, you are guilty. And so as a result of that, our recommended punishment is that you should be reprimanded. And then maybe if it is because you did not understand the FDA laws or Pharmacy Council laws, we can recommend some CPDs for you to undertake, and the executive secretary will supervise you to undertake that, and the matter ends there. That is one recommendation. The other recommendation would be that we will recommend to the governing board for your suspension from the society or your dismissal from the society. And once that is the recommendation, that recommendation goes to the governing board, and the governing board approves of that recommendation, then it takes effect. So the disciplinary committee doesn't have the final authority. The final authority rests with the governing board. So our conclusions are recommendations to the governing board, and the decision of the sanction is taken by the governing board, and then that is final. And then it goes into implementation. So that is the process, the disciplinary process that we have at the PSGH. And I thought that everybody should be aware of it. So I'm hoping that now that we know this, from tomorrow onwards, we'll have a lot of formal complaints to the executive secretary regarding various matters, or maybe not. And then we can go through the disciplinary procedures. Now, one last thing I'd like to take your opinion on during the Q&A session or in the chat box is there has been a thought or a proposal that when we complete these processes, the outcome should be made public to all pharmacists, that this person X was brought before the disciplinary committee and went through the process, and we found him or her guilty of professional misconduct. And as a result, this has been the sanction. He has been suspended or reprimanded or whatever it is. And then we do it, we publish, this is the person, this is the person's number, this is the person's name, this is the person's picture, this is what the person was brought in for, this was the outcome of the proceeding, and this is the punishment. And then we circulate it among pharmacists. Those who propose that believe that once that is done, people will take our ethical provisions and disciplinary processes more seriously. But if we do all these things and we just keep it to ourselves, it doesn't deter enough. Now, there are those who are also in the middle who say that, yes, publish it, but leave out the picture of the person and the person's name. Once you can describe the person, and those who know the person will know that this is the person. And of course, the person will know him or herself. But then do not take the person through the trauma of letting his or her colleagues know that this is what the person has done. And there are those who are on the extreme and say that, look, once you've done it, it is between you and then the person. So I would like to know what you think about which option you should go for when we have the chance for a Q&A. So I will leave it there, and then during the Q&A, we can talk about other things. I thank you very much. Over to you, Joseph.
Wow, thank you so much, Vice President. I think it's been a very, very insightful session. I had some questions jotted down, but I think you answered some of them with your teaser at the end. I think one question I'll leave with you till we get to the Q&A would be, will the medium in which the pharmacist more or less is carrying themselves when it comes to probably social media platforms and other electronic platforms, would that also count, or would that fall under the purview of the Code of Ethics and the PSG Disciplinary Committee? Because I think that's a little silent in what we have. So that's just one of my questions till we move to the next session. So thank you so much for your presentation. I would like to know if we have the FDA representative, Pharm Virgil, is shown on the call. So we'll take the FDA session as well. But thank you all for joining this session, and thank you all for being here. Okay. Great. Okay, great. Yes, we can see your video, and yeah, so we'll hand over to you now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good evening, colleague pharmacists. My name is Virgil Prashon from the Food and Drugs Authority Enforcement Directorate. Right. So this evening, I'm going to give a presentation on medicines regulation. And to start with that, we'll be looking at the legal mandate of the Food and Drugs Authority. As said earlier by my CEO, the authority takes its mandate from the Public Health Act of 2012, Act 851. And there we have part 6, 7, and 8. Part 6 speaks to the control of tobacco. Part 7 speaks to the regulation of food, drugs, cosmetics, household chemicals, and medical devices. And Part 8 talks about clinical trials. So in her speech, she mentioned sections of the law that speaks to manufacture, registration, and others. So if you're looking at section 115 of the Public Health Act, you see that it talks about a person who is qualified to supervise the manufacture of regulated products. If I say regulated product, I'm talking about food, drugs, cosmetics, household chemicals. In this case, we are interested in pharmaceuticals and the devices. So that person must be a pharmacist or must be certified by the Food and Drugs Authority as a supervisor of these operations. And the facility in which these operations are carried on must be licensed by the Food and Drugs Authority. Then when we come to registration of medical products, we're looking at 116, 117, and 118. 116 talks about the powers of the minister to prohibit the manufacture, importation, sales, exportation, advertisement of some of these regulated products. And also when you look at 117, it talks about the manner in which an application can be made to the FDA with the prescribed fee. 118 talks about all regulated products in the country must be registered by the Food and Drugs Authority. We're looking at collaboration. Section 87 of the Public Health Act talks about collaboration. And for that matter, we have the Technical Advisory Committee on Medicine Safety, consisting of practitioners and persons from the academia. We have the Technical Working Group on Post-Marketing Surveillance, also represented by persons from Pharmacy Council, Malaria Control Program, the Ministry, and the Ghana Health Service. Then we have the Interagency Committee on Substandard and Falsified Medicines. This committee is headed by or chaired by an appeal court judge. We have high court judges in there, about 2-3 of them have a rep from the Supreme Court. We have reps from Customs, YOCO, NIB, NACOC, and then the Attorney General's Department. Then when we come to import and export, we have sections 99, 116, 120, 122, 131. 99 talks basically of the registration of food importers and exporters. 116 again talks about the minister having the mandate to prohibit importation, exportation, manufacture of all these regulated products. 120 talks about the need for all imported pharmaceuticals or imported regulatory products should come with a certificate of analysis from the manufacturer or certificate of free sales from the regulatory body from which these pharmaceuticals are being exported. We have the mandate to seize and also dispose of unwholesome products being taken care of by sections 132 and 136 of the Public Health Act. That's part 7, if you have a copy of that. So we're looking at drug applications for marketing authorization. We have, apart from the normal processes of submitting our applications for registration. We also have the reliance policy, which is an alternative pathway designed to facilitate regulatory reviews in a timely manner. And this does not compromise in any way the quality, safety, and efficacy of these medical products. This is handled case by case and focuses on the risk-based review, concentrating on critical issues when it comes to evaluation of registration documents. We have WHO collaborative registration procedures for authorized medical products. We have some of our colleagues being part of the WHO pre-qualification teams. We use the Article 58 procedure, also in Reliance. Then there was African Medicines Harmonization Initiative for ECOWAS, which is currently ongoing. There is another route for the registration of other drugs, especially orphan drugs, such as oncology drugs, which may not be sold for profit purposes, but for specifically for certain patients in need and for science. We also use the emergency authorization approach, emergency use authorization approach, which was used during the COVID pandemic to register most of the COVID vaccines. Then we have program drugs. We have application modes for program drugs, the TBs, the HIVs, and the malaria drugs, and any other method that the MOH may recommend. So when it comes to staff capacity building, like I said earlier on, we have members of FDA staff at the WHO pre-qualification level for medicines. We also have FDA currently leading the WHO pre-qualification team for medicines registration. We are members of the AVRF. Then we benchmark with UK MHRA, UK Veterinary Medicine Directorate. Institutional advancement. Currently, our laboratory center is ISO 17025 2017 accredited. They are WHO maturity level 3 pre-qualified. Our pharmacovigilance is WHO maturity level 4 qualified. Then as an institution, we are WHO level 3 pre-qualified. So when it comes to ARCO, we are an institution designated for ARCO. Right, let's come to what is really happening on the ground when it comes to post-market surveillance and investigations in pharmacies. Here is a picture of FDA staff in a particular pharmacy here in the Greater Accra region conducting post-marketing surveillance. Then as we proceed, we'll see our findings. We have medicines in most pharmacies coming with non-English labels. These medicines are manufactured for different climatic zones, but we see them flooding our markets, being purchased by colleague pharmacists for their pharmacy shops. And I mean, some even convince patients that they are of better quality than what has been registered for the Zone 4B. We have issues with para importation without authorization. Recently, we had to clamp down on a pharmacy business which had imported Nificat from Nigeria without authorization, and also psychologists from the UK without authorization. These two pharmacists were penalized and reported to the Pharmacy Council for action. It will interest you to know that as qualified pharmacists and owner of pharmacies, some of our pharmacy shops contain these herbal products. These products obviously have not been registered by the Food and Drugs Authority. So as we go around, we pick these products for safe disposal, and in our attempt to even dispose of them, you see colleagues calling upon you to temper justice with mercy. They ask you to release it to them for whatever use we don't know. So in our product quality monitoring activities, some of this result or our findings in 2022. So with the support of the PQM Plus, we undertook some product quality monitoring in country, and in the process found out that there was the presence of this falsified anti-malaria compound on the market, and we reported this to the WHO in 2023 February, and it came out that this product has been in circulation for some time now. Prior to finding it in Ghana, it had been found in Cote d'Ivoire, Niger, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. What is happening is that the counterfeiters are using the same batch number to manufacture the same product and changing date of manufacture and date of expiry. After analysis, we realized that this anti-malaria contained no active ingredient, which was a very serious case. So we quickly had to send a press release round for pharmacy businesses with stock of these products to quickly withdraw them from the market so that they did not get to the unsuspecting patients. But actually, there was nothing in it, and it was no way it was going to cure the malaria that we're looking at. So, also in circulation is a meronym injection, which was suspected to be falsified. Unfortunately, when a healthcare professional identified this, he just asked the patient to return it to the source. We couldn't get the real picture of the sample in question, and the source we only told was Okaichi. We tried getting to Pfizer, and to date, there's been no feedback from Pfizer, and the patient has also been discharged. We're currently trying to do covert and overt investigations around Okaichi to see if we can zero in on the source. But the information we have is that it's coming from Nigeria. Here's the case of importation of banned products. We have Tramadol 225 coming into the country. The last case of under investigation, the Tramadol came in as a medical equipment and was re-exported to Nigeria as agri equipment. So we had an intel from our Nigerian counterparts, and with the help of NACOC, we are still investigating this issue. We've had a lot of penalty coding coming from South Africa. In South Africa, we are told the product is not banned and can even be sourced from supermarkets. So it's very easy to access and to export to Ghana. We've written to our counterparts in South Africa to help us stop this, but it seems not to be working too hard. But we had a lot of collaboration from NACOC. They've been fighting us, helping us to fight this importation of the banned product. We have a lot of these aphrodisiacs coming from Nigeria, and in recent times we had a police patrol team helping the FDA to intercept these items after they've been illegally imported into the country. We have some people lined up for prosecution as I speak. So what is the FDA doing? We're looking at compliance, and in achieving that, we're looking at the policies, the regulations, the requirements, the law, transparency, and standards. So we're back to sampling and testing. Last year, and that's 2021 and 2022, with the support of PQM Plus, we did some sampling and testing on some anti-malarials and maternal, neonatal, and child health products. We sampled some antecedent injections, artemethalon, mefantrin tablets, oxytocin injections, and misoprostol. The results were not too good, and we're still trying to work hard to reduce them more drastically, because especially for oxytocin, we've had a very high failure rate in recent times. The last exercise we did, we're having a failure rate of over 50%, which is very serious. So I think management of the FDA had no other choice but to issue a press release and to suspend the marketing authorization of 2 companies who were involved in the supply of this substandard oxytocin to our health facilities. We're fortunate to have another donor helping us undertake some sort of sampling and testing on antihypertensives and antidiabetics. The results show that we have about 10 to 12% failure rates on the market currently, and this tells us that as regulators and as practitioners, we all have a lot of work to do to make sure that these failure rates are reduced drastically. What actions have we taken as regulators so far for non-compliance? We're currently working with the ministry to establish a track and trace system. We've been able to come up with guidelines for track and trace. We had our external stakeholders meeting last month to give opportunity to stakeholders to also make inputs in the document. We're going to put this document on our website for more comments. It will be there for about a month, starting January 2nd. And hopefully by 30th of January, we'll should be taking it off to finalize the document to start some piloting with this traceability system. We've been able to do this with support from USA, USP, and the WHO. Thanks to them, we've come very far with this implementation. We've also sanctioned some pharmacists and pharmacists. We're giving them fines ranging from, various fines, and we're also giving some caution letters and referred some to the Pharmacy Council for disciplinary action to be taken against them. We've done some publication on non-compliances in terms of press releases. We have suspended the marketing authorization of 2 pharmacies. We've done some recalls. We've confiscated for safe disposal some unwholesome products that we have come across. And with our communication department, we've intensified public education using the media training, the CPDs, and also we're now trying to get onto social media to create the awareness of the presence of the regulator there, especially on the issue of advertisement. We've seen social media being flooded with adverts on regulated products, which we're trying very hard to combat. So beyond the counter, what do we expect of the pharmacist? So as pharmacists, we expect that we stock registered medicines and medical products from licensed wholesalers and distributors. The law clearly states that that the FDA is also mandated to license facilities in which these businesses are conducted. So we expect that apart from stocking registered products, you also source from licensed wholesalers and distributors. That we all desist from buying medicinal products from middlemen with no documentation for track and trace, because with time, it will be very difficult for this product from middlemen to be enlisted on the legitimate supply chain, since we're looking at implementing track and trace, which will be giving us information on medical products right from source to the final consumer. We hoping that we all follow and adhere to FDA's prescribed guidelines when it comes to prior importation. There's no excuse that the shortage of a particular medicinal product, and for that matter, you can just get up on your own and bring in some for sale in the country. The law does not allow that. There are procedures for engaging in prior importation, and we are urging all of us to follow those due processes when need be. So we looking forward to collaborating with our colleague pharmacists during our PMS activities and also during investigations. It's very unfortunate that sometimes officers of the FDA are physically or verbally assaulted by staff of pharmacies, and even sometimes by pharmacists themselves. And this, I think, is very unprofessional, and we must try to desist from this. And we must also report suspected counterfeits or falsified products or substandard and falsified products. And also try to report other drug reactions to our safety monitoring department. As pharmacists, I think it's part of our duty to ensure that medicinal products are transported, distributed, and stored as prescribed by the manufacturer to maintain product integrity, and also to educate the public on the seriousness of consuming substandard and falsified medical products. So in conclusion, I'll say that we will need the collaboration of all pharmacists to ensure quality, safe, and efficacious medicines and medical products for our well-being. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pharm Virgil. Prior, Sean, thank you so much for giving us a perspective from pharmacy, from FDA, and also sharing avenues that we can collaborate and partner and things we should be looking out for. I would just like to quickly give an announcement, which would be that everyone who is online on the CS platform or joining on YouTube, you would need to go back to the CS platform and fill out the post meeting questions or exam so that you will be certified and you receive your certification for participating in this particular event. So please don't forget to do that, because that's a critical step for you to receive your certificates for participating in this particular event. Okay, so I think we should be able to move into our Q&A session now. I think we're doing not so bad with time, so if we can move to our questions. I've been told we have a lot of questions online. A lot of people would like to know various things from either FDA or PSGH perspective. So if we could have the questions now, or if maybe Kwabena, you would like to start with one of the questions that I asked as we get the other questions up on the screen.
Right. So you asked a question about the medium.
Yes.
These ethics and rules do not apply to all media. So if anything happens on social media that breaches any of our ethics, like they would in outside of social media, they will still apply. In fact, this year we have had the opportunity to sit on a matter that happened on social media, and some of the breaches that the complainant brought to our attention, although we're on social media, we still found the person to have committed professional misconduct. So social media doesn't change anything. If you put up, for example, a picture of a medicine and say that this medicine is for this purpose, and if you need one, come to me and get some. The question will be, does that amount to advertising? And if it so amounts to advertising, do you have FDA approval to advertise that product? And if you don't, then that's a breach of a law, and then also a breach of our ethics, and therefore you'll be found guilty of professional misconduct. So social media does not exempt you from the liabilities that are associated with a breach of the ethical provisions that I talked about.
Oh, okay. All right. So I think just a follow up to that. So in an age where we have AI and other bots, or should I say devices that are able to proliferate certain false information on social media, and for one reason or the other, it might not be linked to a particular individual or an institution. Do we have provisions as well from the professional perspective to clamp down on such particular areas. I think it's a little technical or technologically inclined, but when it comes to AI, proliferating information on certain things and sharing it on social media.
Well, again, if we are talking about liabilities of persons, so if whatever is being complained about is not the act of an individual that we can identify who is a member of the PSGH, then maybe that thing can be punished or can be addressed through other means, but not through the disciplinary processes established by the PSGH. To be able to come before the PSG, we must be able to see that this person has conducted this particular action and that is in breach of the procedures. So if it's an AI generated something and we cannot attribute it to a pharmacist to have done that, then it falls outside the purview of the disciplinary processes. But it becomes a matter of concern to healthcare. And so any of the bodies, FDA can issue a statement to say that they've come across this, people should disregard. The PSGH can come and say, this is going on, we've identified it, we don't know the source of it, it is not true, or it is inimical, people should be disregarded. But when it comes to something that requires disciplinary action, then we must identify a person who is a pharmacist in respect of the Pharmacists Society of Ghana to have committed those acts. I don't know whether that's addressed.
All right. Yes, but I think that's very clear. Okay, so I think we had a question up. I can't see it now. Okay, great. So this question is from Raymond Kojo. What informs the pharmacist appearing before the disciplinary committee of the Pharmacy Council? So I'm getting PSGH as well. And what informs the decisions to bring the pharmacist before the disciplinary committee of PSGH? Okay. So I think Vice President, this would be to you.
Great. Yeah, that's a very good question. So the Pharmacy Council is established by an Act of Parliament, and it has provisions in there. When you look at the last part where offences are, it describes what constitutes an offence under the Pharmacy Council Act. So if you commit any of the acts on there that have been spelled out by the Pharmacy Council, or something that infringes the practice of pharmacy per the Pharmacy Council law, then you can be brought before the Pharmacy Council Disciplinary Committee for action to be taken against you. Now, for the PSGH, everything revolves around our ethics, the ethical provisions that I went through. So if you want somebody to come before the PSG's disciplinary committee, we must show that the action that you are complaining of breaches a provision of the PSGH ethics. Once you can show that, then the person can be brought before the PSGH disciplinary committee. And for the Pharmacy Council, it's in respect of the law, the Health Professions Regulatory Bodies Act, Part 4, which deals with the Pharmacy Council. If there's a provision there that somebody offends, then the person can be brought before the Pharmacy Council disciplinary process. However, if the Pharmacy Council finds you guilty of something, that guilt can be a basis of further disciplinary action by the Pharmacy Council itself. So, for example, our Constitution says that if you are dismissed by the Pharmacy Council, you are suspended by the Pharmacy Council, or your registration as a pharmacist is taken away by the Pharmacy Council, automatically you lose your membership of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana as well. Or you are also suspended, if it's a suspension, by the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana as well. So I don't know whether that clarifies both of them.
Okay, all right. Raymond, I hope that clarifies your question. So I guess the double-edged sword, one affects the other. So this is from Frederica. This to from insurance. So FDA, please, how can a retailer be assisted to retrieve his or her investment when you seize unregistered products purchased from registered wholesalers? I like your smile, so I think you're going to give us a good answer to this.
Thank you for the question. I mean, when we come around and we find unregistered products in your shop, the first question we ask is evidence of purchase. If you're able to show us evidence of purchase and you're able to establish that it was bought from a licensed wholesaler, unregistered product, bought from a licensed wholesaler. I think the next step would be to go to that licensed wholesaler to ask the licensed wholesaler to, I mean, much as we are not involved in these financial dealings, but I think it would be prudent on the part of the wholesaler to refund your money to you, because we're not going to stop there. We're going to go the extra mile to find out from the licensed wholesaler the source of the unlicensed product. And I think the Pharmacy Council Act, you're not supposed to buy from an illegitimate source. As a licensed wholesaler, your sources must always be legitimate. And I expect that products from legitimate sources should be registered by the Food and Drugs Authority. Thank you.
Thank you, Pharm. So this is from Justice Dogwe. My pharmacist steals. I report to a public agency. I guess Ghana police labeling him a thief. Will I be charged with misconduct for this public ridicule? So I guess this is to Vice President.
No. So if somebody steals and report the person to the appropriate agency, the actions of that agency is out of your hands. So you will not be professionally liable for that. And even in this, the Ghana police itself is unlikely to call the person a thief until the person has been put before court and the person has been found guilty of theft. But just to answer your question directly, you report to the police, which is the right thing to do. The actions that the police takes are not yours, and therefore you cannot be liable for those actions of the police.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. So the next question is, how do we deal with the sale and advertisement of unorthodox medicines by unscrupulous persons in vehicles and lorry parks? So I guess this could be answered by both of you. So maybe Pharm, if you'd like to take it first.
The advertisement of orthodox medicines by unscrupulous persons in vehicles. I mean, if you look at the Public Health Act, Section 114 clearly states that for you to be able to advertise any medicines, you must get clearance from the FDA. So, and the FDA wouldn't give a permit to one to advertise in vehicles or at lorry parks. So the only approach will be for the FDA's enforcement team to go after the person. Normally, if we receive reports from the public about activities like that, we take it up as one of our regulatory actions, and we move into, stop such persons. So if you come across any activity like that, please report to the FDA, and we will take it up and deal with it. Thank you.
Yes, I don't think I have to add on. This is a regulatory issue. We know that medicines have to be registered, they have to be sold from a registered premises, and they have to be dispensed by registered persons. So if this is found, the speaking up part of our code of ethics requires us that we make a report on this to the appropriate regulatory authority, and then they will take the appropriate actions thereof. If the person who is doing the selling is a pharmacist, then disciplinary actions, a disciplinary process could be commenced in respect of that person who is selling, who is called unscrupulous, an unscrupulous pharmacist, because you are bringing the reputation of the pharmacy profession into disrepute, then that matter can come to PSGH. But just the act of it is a regulatory issue that the regulatory authorities will deal with.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. So I guess the next question is from Beatrice. How will the retailer know that products purchased from a licensed wholesaler entered the country illegally? And will the retailer be held liable in such an instance?
I mean, Beatrice, thank you for your question. I mean, it's very difficult for the retailer to, know that product purchased from a licensed wholesaler will be illegal and will be coming through illegal route. So what we expect of you as a retailer is that when we come to you and we find such products in your pharmacy, you help us with information. You tell us where you got it from, and we'll continue with our investigations from there. We are likely to seize the product. There's no way we're going to leave that product with you, but we don't think you are likely to be liable since you didn't import it. Thank you.
Okay, all right. I think that's good. That's good news for the retailers.
Maybe John, let me ask a question. FDA, okay, let me ask the FDA a question myself. Is there? I thought there was a way of verifying which medicines are registered on. I mean, there's an online process to identifying which medicines are registered or not. Or that's not the case.
Yes. We have most of the registered products on our website, but we had issues with retailers who say because of the volumes they buy, it's very difficult for them to, check on this registration status when it comes to stocking their shops or their pharmacies. So that's how one of the main reasons why we're trying to implement this track and trace or traceability policy. Just by scanning, you should be able to know that the product is a legitimate one in the legitimate supply chain. So we understand the challenges of retailers. And so when we are investigating, we take into consideration some of these things, much as we have the registered products on our websites. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I guess this is for the Vice President. So how does PSG serve as an advocate for the rights of pharmacists if a pharmacist is found guilty, in extension to being found so by the Pharmacy Council? Does the said pharmacist not get any support in this regard against the council? Essentially, does this mean the PSG sides with the Pharmacy Council no matter what? Okay.
That's a very interesting question. So the PSGH, so the Pharmacy Council's processes also includes representation from the PSGH. If the matter, if the pharmacist feels at any point in time that he or she has not been given a fair hearing by the Pharmacy Council, he can let the PSGH, he or she can let the PSGH know. And then the PSGH, if the PSGH, there's a way the PSGH can support a process, like maybe getting you a lawyer to take the matter beyond the Pharmacy Council jurisdiction to the court processes, then the PSGH can support you in that regard, which means that the process has not ended yet. But if the process ends and you, the pharmacist, you believe that the trial was fair and the conclusion was fair and you accept that, then if you are no longer a registered pharmacist, for example, because your license has been revoked by the Pharmacy Council, then by law, you no longer also become a member of the PSGH. But if you believe that you haven't had a fair trial and you make the PSGH know and you request for specific support, the PSGH will be willing to stand with you and support you through that process.
Okay. All right. So I guess this question is, how different is the Pharmacy Council Disciplinary Committee from the PSGH Disciplinary Committee?
Okay, so the Pharmacy Council Disciplinary Committee is set up by the law, like an act of parliament. The PSGH Disciplinary Committee is a committee set up by the PSGH itself. So that is pretty much the difference. You know, the Pharmacy Council is a statutory body established by an act of parliament, and there's required in there for them to have a disciplinary committee to deal with professional misconduct, and they have the power to be able to take away your license as a pharmacist. We in the PSGH, our power is limited to suspension from the professional society. And then we can then apply to the Pharmacy Council if we think that it is necessary for them to take the extra action of taking away your license if it is so required. So the Pharmacy Council one is a statutory process. The PSGH one is a professional association process. To some extent, in terms of the legal status of both, the Pharmacy Council process is of a higher legal status than the PSGH process.
Thank you very much, Vice President. So, with the increasing number of pharmacists, when is FDA going to enforce qualified persons oversee the pharma manufacturing industry to ensure professional ethics in the pharma manufacturing industry?
Thank you for your question. But I think this process already ongoing. So I don't think there's any started. We've already started, and it's something I know is ongoing. Thank you.
All right, great. So it's good to know that it's ongoing. We're hoping to see more pharmacists being employed under that as well. So, what steps are FDA taking to curb the proliferation of herbal medicines on the market that appears to correspond to increased cases of renal diseases in the country of late?
Yeah, the issue of herbal medicines. I think we have a department dedicated for the registration of herbal medicines. Unfortunately, what we've realized is we have a lot of charlatans in this area. So we're working hand in hand with the enforcement, police, Ghana Police, and other security agencies to help us, clamp down on these charlatans. Apart from that, we also looking at improving the quality of herbal medicines on the market by collaborating with agencies like Mampong in the academia to come up with, a very more acceptable way of manufacturing these herbal medicines. I know the department concerned have organized a lot of training for those that we have identified and are ready to, go by our guidelines. That notwithstanding, it has been very difficult. I must admit that it has been a very big challenge to us, especially for the enforcement team, to clamp down on these charlatans. But I want to assure you that with time, we making gradual gains, and with time, this will be a thing of the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Pharm, for reassuring us. So that's from Emmanuel. Again, to the FDA, I want the FDA to speak to medications that are brought along, especially for the purpose of foreign medical missions, not registered. Is there a special dispensation for such medicines or medications? Sorry.
Yeah, if you need to bring in something like that, you must apply to the chief executive of the FDA, and it must your application must be accompanied by a prescription from a qualified medical officer. They will look at the quantities involved. If she thinks it's okay, she may give you the approval. But most often than not, when the medicine is in the country, I mean, we don't expect you to bring them from outside. We expect that you buy from in country. So it's handled case by case basis. If you have an issue like that and you put in a request to the CEO of the FDA, supported by a prescription from a qualified medical officer, I think it will receive some sort of consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much for information. So, does suspension of a member by PSGH render the member unable to practice professionally?
Okay, so not directly, but every suspension from the PSGH will be communicated to the Pharmacy Council, and the basis of the suspension will also be communicated to the Pharmacy Council. And then the Pharmacy Council will look at it and then make a determination. Most likely, the Pharmacy Council will enforce that, and then the Pharmacy Council will suspend your license, and then based on that, you cannot practice professionally. So the PSGH suspension is not in isolation. It is in conjunction with the Pharmacy Council for you to be suspended. And once that happens, then you cannot also practice professionally.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. So, with the former reporting as PSGH is suggesting, is there any form of protection for whistleblowers from colleagues who may identify their accusers one way or the other?
And well, we don't want you to be a whistleblower. We want you to be able to stand by what you are saying. So as of now, we don't have any provision of whistleblowers. If you think that somebody's conduct is not right, you make a formal complaint identifying yourself, and then we invite you to come and make the case, and then proceed from there. So there's nothing about being a whistleblower at the moment in our provisions. So we would like you to identify yourself, and I think that we should begin to develop the culture of doing that. If the thing is wrong and it will hamper public health, the person who is doing that should realize that he or she can be punished. And the person who does bring this thing up should not be seen as an enemy, but rather a friend of the human race to have brought this thing up. So there's no whistleblowing right now. Every complaint has to be formal, and we must identify the person. We do recognize that that is a limitation, like I was saying, because of how we are, our culture as a people. We don't want to be seen to be the one or be accused as the one who brought this person down. There has been suggestions that such a complaint could go to the executive secretary, who would then become the complainant. But also that means that the executive secretary is always the person who is seen as the bad person if we extended that argument. So for now, all complaints have to come from the person who is making the complaint to the executive secretary, and it will stand in the name of that person, and the person will then defend it. So there's no whistleblowing now, in short.
Okay, so I guess I would have a follow-up question. So is there any protection against retaliation from people that, for lack of a better word, accuse other colleagues for one reason or the other? Do you have measures to prevent retaliation from the accused person's perspective?
So let me assume that retaliation here means that the person would also look for an opportunity to report to you when you do something wrong.
I guess not. Well, yeah, you could say that when you do something wrong, or when they find that you are liable to do something wrong, just to put you in a bad light. Just as well.
I mean, the fact that you have complained about someone means that you also have to be careful that you don't fall foul of the same process. So if the person also reports you for doing something wrong, I don't think that is retaliation. I think it is what we are encouraging everybody to do, to report things that are not going right. So I would expect that we all act right. And if you are found to have breached a provision of our code of ethics, and we investigate and we find that you've actually breached it, I don't think that can be called retaliation. But if the person brings a frivolous matter before us because of what happened, we can look at it and come to the conclusion that there's no basis of merit on this, and nothing will be done to you. So, at the least, everybody is expected to comply with the rules. And once we do, then there's no problem. If we don't, then somebody might bring the matter up, and then we'll have to investigate and come to a conclusion.
Okay.
Is that,
all right. I think that's clear. That's
okay.
Good enough. Yes. As long as you're doing the right thing, you should be fine.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. What does it take? Why does it take FDA a long time to report on findings on reported ADRs, so adverse drug reactions? Sometimes you don't hear from them at all on reported cases. Any measures in place to address these concerns? So, Formation, please.
Yes. Some of these reported cases must be investigated by the investigations department and take some time. And sometimes our findings must also be submitted to the technical advisory committee for review. So it's not just about going to the persons involved in the importation or sale or supply of these products, but it also goes beyond the FDA. We have to seek advice from our third party. So it may take time, but I know for sure that the department responsible for that is very efficient and effective, one of the best rated by WHO. And so if there's something like that, you can always draw the attention, and we should be able to resolve it on one-on-one basis. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Commission. So, what is the FDA doing about herbal medicines being sold by religious organizations to mass numbers of people under the name of religious articles? Okay.
Religious bodies selling herbal medicines. Once it's not registered, it's not registered. We treat all products alike. The law does not, exempt religious bodies. So if you have any information on any religious body selling herbal medicines to the church members and it's not registered, and you report to the FDA, action will be taken. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess we have an avalanche of FDA questions. So, what's the FDA doing about the advertisement of aphrodisiacs on television?
Yes, advertisement of aphrodisiac. I mean, obviously, we do not grant a permit for advertisement of aphrodisiacs on television or radio. So once it's there, it's an illegality. In recent times, we find over 50 radio stations and TV stations, and putting them together. Like I said in my presentation, we are now very present on social media as well. We're trying to clean up the media space of all this. Because of the different media houses that we have, is not easy though, but we are lucky to have the National Communication Authority giving us some support, and they've given us a desk at the end that we do effective monitoring of this advice in recent time. So I can assure you, just give us some few weeks or less, you see that the media space will be clean of all these unapproved adverts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Professor, I think we have some commitments from FDA that in a few weeks, I'm sure by 2024, all of this will be done. What happens to a non-pharmacist who advertises medication without approval? So this from Derek, and I think Vice President can help with this.
Well, yeah. For us, okay.
Is the question for me or for
Vice well, either of you. Okay, yes, I think FDA. Maybe you can help us with that. Yeah.
Vice President, please take it. There may be.
Well, so if it's a non-pharmacist, our mandate, the PSGH mandate, is with pharmacists in terms of the disciplinary processes. If a non-pharmacist advertises medication without approval, that doesn't come within our jurisdiction at all. It doesn't mean that it cannot be addressed. I think that is a matter on advertisement that should be addressed by the Food and Drugs Authority fully.
Yes. What happens to a non-pharmacist? The same thing that will happen to a pharmacist. The law does not, there's no special law for a non-pharmacist. The law is for Ghanaians. So whatever will happen to the non-pharmacist will happen to the pharmacist if that person should advertise with that approval from the FDA. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, what are FDA laid down processes to produce extemporaneous preparation in a registered pharmacy?
I think we have guidelines for producing and registration of extemporaneous preparations in pharmacies. So if one is interested, you may contact the registration department and they will take you through the guidelines for doing that.
Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Formation. So I don't know how many more questions we have, but I guess we can take a few more. So from Pedro, if the project work that pharmacy students carry out during their 4th year cannot be used, okay, I think the person wants to know if the project work that pharmacy students carry out in their 4th year can be used to assist in post-market surveillance. I guess this person may have done a project in that regard and they would want to know if it will be useful in FDA's post-market surveillance.
Oh, why not? We had a lot of students, pharmacy students coming to us, sharing their project work with us. Some of them we've taken a cue from and we're working with them. So there's no limits. There are no boundaries. When you have any project work and you think you want to share with us, you can always come around. Thank you.
Okay. So what departments would they need to come to? When
depending on the area.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, depending on the places. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much. So the Vice President's answer on the suspension by PSGH almost automatically leading to a suspension by the Pharmacy Council is problematic. How can an interest group's action lead to the same action by a statutory body?
Okay. Thank you, Emmanuel. So, like I mentioned, once we go through a process and conclude that our action would be a suspension from the professional body, we send the process that we went through to the Pharmacy Council for them to also evaluate. If they evaluate and they come to the conclusion that the action is such that the person has to be, the person's registration has to be taken away from him, then they would come to that conclusion. So our conclusion is not binding on the Pharmacy Council. Like I said, we will send what we have done to the Pharmacy Council. They would also evaluate it, do what they have to do in accordance with their own statutory processes. And if they come to the conclusion that your action that resulted in your suspension from the PSGH deserves you to be your registration to be taken away from you, then they will come to that conclusion. What I'm saying is that it is almost likely that whatever action that whatever offense or activity or whatever action that you took that resulted in your suspension from the PSGH would also amount to a suspension of your license by the Pharmacy Council. But then what we do is not binding on the Pharmacy Council. They will evaluate what we have done, go through their own processes, and come to a conclusion. That conclusion is most likely going to be consistent with the conclusion of the PSGH disciplinary process as well. So I hope that I've clarified it. It is not an automatic. It's not because PSGH suspended you from the professional body, then automatically your license is taken away from you. No. But then the conclusion of the Pharmacy Council most likely would be the same as that of the PSGH, and the actions will be taken from there.
All right, great. So thank you very much, Emmanuel, for your question. So we hope the Vice President has been able to address that. So this again from Frederica. Please, how can the effect of influencers on social media be curtailed in the advertisement of pharmaceutical products for wrong reasons? Example, boric acid suppositories. So I guess, Pharmacist, I think this might be to you. Okay, I think Pharmacist, please, are you with us? Okay, but okay, Vice President, you can take that.
Well, the FDA is again the right authority to answer this, but if it's not there, again, if what the influencers do amounts to if the FDA comes to the conclusion that what you are doing amounts to advertisement, then the same processes for advertising a product without approval from the FDA would apply to that influencer. So the FDA can call that person and then take the person through whatever processes they have to go through, and then apply the sanctions that they have to apply. Again, this influencer. If the influencer is a pharmacist, then the PSGH too has a jurisdiction. If the person is not a pharmacist, then it's strictly a matter for the regulatory bodies.
Okay, all right. So, Frederica, I hope that answers your question. So, Vice President and also the Chairperson of PSGH Gitakra, would we want to continue asking the questions, or want to give another avenue for these questions to be answered? Because I'm hearing we have a lot of questions. Unfortunately, we do not have a lot of time as well. I think this has been a very successful event, so maybe we could have a part 2 to get people to ask more questions and get more answers from PSGH and FD. I think FD has had a lot of questions today as well. So
for a discussion, I think that, as you said, I mean, the time is almost, and people have done really well, almost 2 hours. So I think that the other questions, we can forward them to the various areas. FDA will have theirs. What the Vice President needs to answer, we also send it to him. I mean, we have social media platform for all of us. So those ones, maybe we can organize them and be posting them on our various platforms for people to have access to the questions and the answers that we provided. So I think that we should continue and start to bring the thing to a close, because people have been here for quite a long time. As I said, if people really are interested, maybe, as I said, we may have to have a part 2. As I was sitting here, I was wondering, so people have a lot of issues when especially with the FDA, where a lot of things need to be clarified. Maybe I'll play with the CEO, and maybe we have another session where we dedicated to FDA, where maybe from A to Z, all that they do, they can come and take us through, so that people will have clarity and clarifications on all that FDA is doing in respect to all the things that they do to protect the health of Ghanaians. So, Mr. Host, I think that we can prepare the questions, answer them later, and then post them on our platforms.
And then, Mr. Chair, I mean, just to also bring this in, which we have been talking about, I think the new approach for PSGH activities at the regional level is that at every event of the regional, or at regional meetings, we'll bring our relevant regulators also, and then other groups who are important to the meeting, so that people can have the opportunity to engage them. So this was a start, and obviously, Mr. Chair, you've seen that people have a lot of concern. So And I'm grateful for your leadership on this, that hopefully we can do another session, maybe not just the FDA and PSGH, we can also bring Pharmacy Council also on board and just have a regulatory session where people can have the opportunity to address, have the opportunity to put their questions and then address and have their questions addressed as well. So that's another way that we can look at it. Or it could also be the basis for a good physical meeting. You know, these days, people are not willing to come for physical meetings. So if people are interested in regulatory matters, we can use that as a bait to have a good physical meeting and interact. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. So Mr. Holtz, where are we now?
So yes, I think we're supposed to have, I guess, a presentation from our sponsor, but I'm not sure if we'll be able to do that. So I guess we'll have to hand over to you to give the closing remarks. But thanks again to the presenters. I don't know if Ishan has been able to join again. I don't know if, okay, so Dr. Donko, I don't know if you are on now. We're almost at the end. You can give your closing remarks, then the chairman of the PSGH, Greater Accra, can do that as well. So thank you very much. So Pharm Donko, sorry, I think you are muted. We can't hear you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I said I've been on all along.
Great.
I've been through all the presentations. Thank you. Wonderful presentation by the Vice President of PSGH, as well as Virgil of the Food and Drugs Authority. I think all has been said, so it's most appropriate that I also listen to. First and foremost, please, Chairman of Greater Accra, I'm a member of Greater Accra, so I'm not here just as the president. I'm also a member of Greater Accra, branch of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. So just acknowledge the fact that I'm also attending a CPD like everyone else. It's important. Then the second one I would want to say is that, in all what they've said, let us keep the motto of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana in mind, that we are friends of the human race. So whatever you do on ethical issues, just remember that a patient somewhere is going to suffer for the consequence. Buying medicines which are not registered, stocking medicines from unlicensed wholesalers or unlicensed distributors, stocking medicines from people who are just parading around, all because sometimes you make extra profit because you find the price cheaper. These are things that will have consequences for that patient. The patient we claim to be friends of, the human race that we are friends of, and that will not augur well for us. We should also remember that if you are in Accra and you have your license here, you registered a pharmacy in Tamale where I am, because there are so many pharmacists who have been imported into Tamale or Northern region, simply means that they are not here, but they are registering places here. When you go to OT region, there are about 4 or 5 pharmacies there, but there's only one pharmacist in that region. Where are the other 4 pharmacists who registered those facilities? Superintending a facility, leaving it out there for other people who are not qualified, who do not have knowledge. Sometimes they are not even trained as MCAs. What you do is that you are posing harm to the patient, your clients, the human race that you are friends of. You are not being friendly at all to them. You are exposing them to the dangers of medicines, and this is something that we all need to work on. A lot has been said. The Vice President gives specific examples, situations, and I think one of them is leaving pharmacies without supervision, leaving pharmacies in the hands of MCAs. These are things we all need to work on. Very soon there will be sanctions from the Pharmacy Council, what they will call the spot fines, the e-fines. When a Pharmacy Council personnel visits the pharmacy and finds out that there's no pharmacist, immediately a fine will be, you'll be administered a fine which will hit the head office, and you cannot even go and plead. These measures are all going to be introduced. So just imagine one pharmacy being fined first, second, third. You automatically end up at the disciplinary committee. So we are going to make sure that there's enforcement. So colleagues, let's all help to make sure that our profession gets better. Being ethically minded will go a long way to improve our patients, improve the clients we serve. That is what I would want to say. And like the Vice President said, let's also strengthen our regional branches. That is the aim of our administration. We need to make sure that regional branches are strengthened. And therefore, congratulations to the Greater Accra branch for such a wonderful program, for the maximum attendance you've been able to achieve today. I think you need to keep it up. Other regions joined, and the regions are all going to learn from what has happened today. Having 1,200 pharmacists to attend such a program is what the kind of thing that we need. And we would encourage you to continue doing it, and you would always have the support of the Standing Executive Committee of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. So colleagues, let us also act as vigilantes. Let's monitor what is happening around. And when you pick signals, you can report to your regional chairs. The regional executives are there. When a particular pharmacy is not doing the appropriate thing, don't shy away from it. Please kindly send a message to your regional executives that you have found pharmacy A, B, C, D doing this. There are situations where some pharmacies were even given infusions. Pharmacists were hiring nurses. Others were hiring physician assistants. Yesterday, personally, I saw a pharmacy where infusions were set on patients. These things are happening across the country. And when we see it, what do? Let's report to the appropriate, let's report at least to our regional executives to take it up. I know the question is that we need to have somebody identified. That is an issue we need to resolve at the governing board level. We need to really find a way by which to make it easier for people to report. So at this time, you can report to your regional executives. If as an individual, you are not comfortable even to report, send a report to your regional executives and let the regional chairperson possibly do a formal complaint, because he is acting on behalf of the society in the region to make things easier. I know one area is also dicey. I don't want to go into it. Vice President was trying as much as possible to avoid it. But the truth is that if your license, if you are suspended as a member of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, it means it has implications on your ability to practice the profession of pharmacy. There is a law to that effect, that before you can practice any profession, you need to identify yourself with a recognized professional body. In this country, the only recognized professional body is the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. So if your name is struck off the register, it will be practically impossible for you to practice the profession pharmacy. That is the law as it exists now. Even though the information will be forwarded to the Pharmacy Council to do their own investigations, what is likely to happen is that the decision of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana will be upheld in most situations. So basically, these are a few things that we should always keep in mind. And the issues are coming up. As we speak now, there's one issue in front of the Different Committee of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. A formal complaint has been made. The other issue I also want to touch on is that, do we publish this in the Pharmaceutical Journal? At the AGM, some felt that we should make all the disciplinary findings should be made public, especially in the Pharmaceutical Journal, as it is done in Great Britain. Pharmaceutical Society of Great Britain will publish all the disciplinary hearings, the outcome. We don't do it in Ghana. That is also a decision for governing board to take on behalf of our members. If the decision is taken at the governing board level that let's make it public, let's put it in our journals, then we will have no choice than to comply. So we still have a few gray areas which we need to tighten. And I believe with time, we will be able to make progress. I have also followed all the questions that were asked, and it clearly shows that we need to work more with the Food and Drugs Authority. Our members need more information on the activities of the Food and Drugs Authority. At the appropriate time, I believe the Pharmacy Council will also come on board. The Pharmacy Council District Committee has also been very busy, and it will surprise you that some companies and pharmacists are being fined heavily by the Pharmacy Council. The maximum fine is 60,000 Ghana cedis. Some are being fined 30,000 Ghana cedis. So it's clear in the area of this, in that area, a lot is happening, just that we are not making it public. Once we start going public, you will get to know that, yes, a lot of irregularities or a lot of infractions against the law currently ongoing. Let us be professionals. Let us live to our motto as friends of the human race. The only way you can demonstrate to be a true friend of the human race is to make sure that you conform to the ethics of the profession. Thank you once again to your listeners and colleague pharmacists. Wish you the very best, and I'm sure we'll meet at the appropriate time for us to be able to engage you more, tell you what is happening also at PSGH at SEC level, and be able to interact like you've done today. Once again, thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Very well said. So, Pharm Kwabena, I don't know if you'd like to have any closing remarks there.
Let me close there. So, as Mr. President said, we are actually is about 1,500 participants, which is massive. I'm sure it's all over the country. I believe that all of us have been educated enough to enable us to perform our duties with all the confidence we need as pharmacists, knowing that everything we are doing is ethical and is also within the ambit of the law. I just want to thank Mr. President for his wonderful closing remarks. We want to thank the FDA, especially the CEO, Dr. Mercedes Dakun. We want to thank our presenters, Kwabena and Vigil. You've really done a yeoman's job. The executive of Greater Accra, thank you very much for the support and for helping to put this together. Pharmanova, our partial sponsor, and of course, CES for accommodating all these numbers, even though this was not anticipated. Once again, I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2024. So we'll see you again. We hope that they are going to again continue to participate massively in the activity that we've lined up. We'll be reminding ourselves as the year rolls on. Thank you very much, and may God bless us all. Mr. Host. Oh, I forgot to thank Mr. Host. You have done marvelously well. Thank you very much, Joe.
And thank you very much, Pharm Kwabena. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for participating. And we hope to have more of these at the regional level and also in person, like the Vice President said, hopefully soon. So thank you all and happy holidays.